Genesis 19 verse 1. The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. The angels come to Sodom, and Lot greets them. Genesis 19 verse 2. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night. Lot offers them hospitality. Genesis 19 verse 3. But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. Lot convinces the angels to stay at his home. Genesis 19 verse 4. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom surrounded the house. The men of Sodom demand to harm Lot's guests. Genesis 19 verse 5. They called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us. The men of Sodom seek to abuse the visitors. Genesis 19 verse 6. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him. Lot tries to protect the visitors. Genesis 19 verse 7. No, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Lot pleads with the men of Sodom to abandon their sinful intentions. Genesis 19 verse 8. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you instead. Lot makes a controversial offer to protect his guests. Genesis 19 verse 9. Get out of our way. They replied, this fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. The mob rejects Lot's plea and turns hostile. Genesis 19 verse 10. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. The angels intervened to protect Lot. Genesis 19 verse 11. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness. The angels blind the attackers. Genesis 19 verse 12. The 2 men said to Lot, do you have anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons or daughters? Get them out of here. The angels warn Lot to evacuate his family. Genesis 19 verse 13. Because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great. The angels reveal God's plan to destroy Sodom. Genesis 19 verse 14. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons, but his sons-in-law thought he was joking. Lot's warning is dismissed. Genesis 19 verse 15. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters. The angels hasten Lot's departure. Genesis 19 verse 16. When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and daughters. The angels physically lead Lot's family out. Genesis 19 verse 17. Flee for your lives. Don't look back, and don't stop anywhere in the plain. The angels warn them to escape immediately. Genesis 19 verse 18. But Lot said to them, no, my lords, please. Lot hesitates and pleads for a different plan. Genesis 19 verse 19. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, but I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me. Lot fears the journey to the mountains. Genesis 19 verse 20. Look, here is a town near enough to run to. Let me flee to it. It is very small. Lot requests to flee to Zoar. Genesis 19 verse 21. Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of. The angels allow Lot to go to Zoar. Genesis 19 verse 22. But flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. The destruction is delayed until Lot is safe. Genesis 19 verse 23. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Lot arrives at the town safely. Genesis 19 verse 24. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah. God's judgment on the cities begins. Genesis 19 verse 25. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities. The entire region is devastated. Genesis 19 verse 26. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Lot's wife disobeys the command and faces the consequence. Genesis 19 verse 27. Early the next morning Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. Abraham observes the aftermath. Genesis 19 verse 28. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah. And he saw dense smoke rising from the land. The destruction is evident. Genesis 19 verse 29. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham. God spares Lot because of Abraham's intercession. Genesis 19 verse 30. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains. Lot relocates after leaving Zoar. Genesis 19 verse 31. One day the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around to give us children." The daughters devise a plan to continue their family line. Genesis 19 verse 32. "Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him." The daughters carry out their plan. Genesis 19 verse 33. That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. The older daughter bears a child. Genesis 19 verse 34. The next day the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father." The younger daughter is persuaded. Genesis 19 verse 35. So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. The younger daughter also bears a child. Genesis 19 verse 36. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The daughters conceived children by Lot. Genesis 19 verse 37. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. Moab's lineage begins. Genesis 19 verse 38. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ammi. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. Ben-Ammi's lineage begins.